Beneath the quiet green canopies of southern Vietnam, a secret world was carved from the earth, an intricate web that would influence the course of a war and etch the name Cu Chi forever into the annals of history. This is the remarkable story of the Cu Chi tunnels, an extraordinary underground labyrinth built and sustained by the Viet Cong, soldiers whose ingenuity and endurance allowed them to wage a hidden war under the feet of their enemies. Located about 70 kilometers northwest of bustling Ho Chi Minh City, the tunnels are accessible today by bus, by boat, gliding along the Saigon River, or by car tracing the countryside roads. But decades ago, this tranquil region bore witness to an entirely different reality, one of survival, resistance, and relentless ingenuity in the face of overwhelming odds. The purpose of the tunnels was clear and critical from the beginning. Conceived as sanctuaries, they evolved rapidly into all-purpose lifelines, providing shelter from barrages of bombs, platforms for launching attacks, spaces for planning and healing, and stealthy highways for moving troops and supplies invisibly beneath the very boots of enemy patrols. Over time, what began as small hiding places transformed into an engineering marvel. Miles of snaking passages, strategic chambers, and concealed entrances, all working together as a complex living organism. To understand the origins of this underground world, we must return to the late 1940s, a time when colonial powers still held Vietnam in their grasp. The seeds of the tunnel network were planted during the resistance against French colonization. Facing superior weaponry and persistent patrols, Vietnamese fighters turned to the earth for protection and concealment. Simple dugouts and short tunnels began popping up just long enough to hide from searches or to launch surprise attacks on French convoys and outposts. The genius of the tunnel system emerged not just in its size, but in its adaptability. As the conflict shifted and American involvement in Vietnam intensified through the 1960s, the tunnels expanded both in complexity and reach. What started as a few hundred meters grew into a network spanning over 250 kilometers, weaving through Cu Chi district and kneading out toward neighboring areas. The tunnels weren't laid in straight lines. They zigzagged, looped, and branched, making them almost impossible to map or destroy. Some sections even ran beneath key U.S. bases, creating a constant air of uncertainty and threat for the occupying forces. Depth was another crucial feature of the tunnels. Some corridors led just below the surface for quick escapes, while others burrowed deeper, up to 3 levels down. The uppermost levels handled the immediate needs of movement and rapid exits, but deeper corridors housed makeshift hospitals, storage rooms filled with supplies and ammunition, and living quarters that sheltered hundreds of fighters and sometimes their families. At their most extensive, the tunnels could accommodate meetings, classrooms for political instruction, and even small theaters for entertainment to bolster morale. Invisibility was paramount, and so the surface entrances to this vast subterranean world were master classes in camouflage. Access points were disguised with fallen leaves, pieces of bark, or patches of grass. Concealed trapdoors blended perfectly with the forest floor, making detection nearly impossible for the untrained eye. These hidden entrances could be rapidly closed and covered, sealing the underground warriors away from prying helicopters and ground patrols. Sometimes, only the faintest outline in the dirt betrayed the presence of a vital portal. But the tunnels were more than just hiding places. They were bristling with defenses, many of which struck terror into any enemy unlucky enough to stumble upon them. The Viet Cong turned the land itself into a weapon, devising booby traps that were as ingenious as they were deadly. The infamous punji stakes, sharpened bamboo or metal spikes driven into the bottom of pits, waited just below thin surfaces of brush or earth. There were swinging doors studded with spikes, rolling traps that would sweep through confined spaces, and pits covered with rice straw that collapsed underfoot. For soldiers unfamiliar with the ground or traveling at night, every step could be a descent into sudden pain and panic. Breathing, of course, posed a significant challenge to this hidden community. Prolonged life underground demanded fresh air, but not at the expense of detection. The solution came in the form of bamboo ventilation shafts, expertly concealed in thickets or disguised with termite mounds. The narrow, angled pipes allowed air to circulate while preventing the entry of smoke or chemical gas. Such thoughtful engineering meant the people below could endure days or even weeks without surfacing. Surviving, however, also required food and the means to cook it. Yet the simple act of cooking could give away an entire tunnel cluster. Rising smoke was a telltale sign for reconnaissance planes and patrols. Enter the underground kitchens, another feat of necessity-driven innovation. Fires were kindled in deep cooking chambers, and smoke was funneled through a labyrinth of bamboo pipes that stretched to hidden exits many meters away from the source. By the time the smoke emerged, it was thin, cool, and indistinguishable from the normal morning haze, foiling efforts to pinpoint a kitchen's true location. Living underground was not for the faint of heart. Life inside the tunnels was a daily ordeal, marked by darkness, sweltering humidity, and congestion. Spaces were often just wide and high enough for a single person to shuffle along, hunched in constant discomfort. Soldiers and civilians alike battled feelings of claustrophobia. The walls teemed with rats and insects, ever present in Vietnam's tropical climate, disease, malnutrition, and the ever-present worry of cave-ins, gas attacks, or bombs weighed heavily on every waking moment. Still, the tunnels remained a testament to human adaptability, homes fashioned from necessity and sheer will. Days and nights in the tunnels blurred together, as the regime of sunlight and moonlight existed only as memories. Soldiers would stay underground for weeks, sometimes venturing outside only under the cover of darkness or in absolute emergencies. Noise was kept to a minimum, supplies rationed with care, and every flicker of light shielded. All actions were calculated to preserve the living, breathing fortress below. Communication and cooperation were essential for survival. The tunnel network linked bunkers, command centers, storage depots, and emergency routes, allowing for movements that were swift, coordinated, and concealed. Fighters could pop up behind enemy lines to strike, then vanish again, leaving confusion and apprehension in their wake. Escape tunnels led to rivers or hidden exits far from the original entry, foiling efforts at pursuit. Some corridors were rigged with traps specifically designed to catch and kill intruders who ventured too far. Others branched off and looped back, confounding even the most determined invaders. Close-quarters combat within the tunnels was a nightmare. So-called tunnel rats, specially trained U.S. and Allied soldiers, were sent into the darkness, armed only with pistols, a flashlight, and their nerves. They searched for fighters or supplies, but often faced hidden combatants, traps, or dead ends. The Viet Cong developed a style of hit-and-run ambushes perfectly suited to the tight corridors and shifting pathways. A shot or a blast would echo, the assaulter would vanish, and the tunnels would seem to swallow the sounds and return to silence. Psychological warfare played a significant role throughout. To their enemies, the tunnels symbolized an omnipresent, intangible threat. They embodied the fear that no patrol, base, or checkpoint was ever truly secure. Every safe-looking field could conceal an entrance. Every mound or bush could hide an unseen watcher. The anxiety wore down morale. Rumors and stories of deadly traps or phantom fighters circulated through Allied ranks, eroding confidence and readiness. For the fighters living in Cu Chi's darkness, the tunnels offered not just protection, but pride and purpose. They became symbols of resistance, of the enduring Vietnamese spirit that would mold adversity into means of survival. The network inspired tales, songs, and memories of bravery, evidence that even the world's most powerful armies could be confounded by skill, knowledge of the land, and relentless perseverance. In the decades since the war's end, much has changed above ground in Cu Chi. The forests have grown back, life has returned, and the hum of Ho Chi Minh City can be heard not far away. Yet, deep below the surface, remnants of this subterranean world persist. Sections of the tunnel system have been preserved and carefully expanded in places, allowing visitors to see firsthand the conditions in which so many lived and fought. Tours today are fitted for the comfort and safety of tourists, but traces of the original tunnel's narrowness, darkness, and intensity remain. Plaques and dioramas describe the daily realities of tunnel life, and preserved examples of traps and camouflage demonstrate the careful planning that made Cu Chi so formidable. Walking through these tunnels, the imagination quickly fills in the rest. The grit of the fighters, the scraping of shovels, the whispered urgency of plans drawn in flickering torchlight, the moments of terror and triumph lived out in the shadows. The modern world above provides a sharp contrast, a reminder that while progress moves forward, the story of Cu Chi will always be rooted in the ground, a testament to resilience against adversity. The Cu Chi tunnels stand today not merely as relics of war, but as a monument to innovation and survival. They are a powerful reminder that even in the darkest conditions, the human will to endure and adapt can construct new worlds beneath the most impossible of circumstances. The legacy of Cu Chi is woven not only through the land, but through the hearts and minds of all those who have learned its story. A story of the earth itself becoming both shield and weapon, haven and battlefield, lifeline and legend. A journey to the Cu Chi tunnels is a moving exploration of history, ingenuity, and resilience. An experience that bridges the past with the present, offering lessons that linger well after the dust settles from the underground pathways. Whether you're a history buff, a curious traveler, or seeking a deeper understanding of Vietnam's past, this site promises an unforgettable encounter with the realities and reflections of wartime Vietnam. Planning a visit to the Cu Chi tunnels presents travelers with several options, each offering its own flavor of adventure and learning. For those who prioritize convenience and narration, organized tours are the most common route. These tours are widely available in Ho Chi Minh City and often bundle transportation, guided walks, and even meals, ensuring a smooth, informative experience. Knowledgeable guides lead the way, and their bilingual narrations often add valuable context, illuminating not only the technical marvels of the tunnels, but also the very human stories entwined in their construction and use. For a twist of scenic adventure, riverboat cruises to Cu Chi are another unique way to arrive. Gliding down the Saigon River, guests enjoy the tranquil sights and sounds of the countryside as it transitions from cityscapes to verdant jungle. This route harks back to the original supply lines of the war era, providing a sense of the terrain and its strategic importance. The journey itself becomes part of the historical immersion, and many travelers find that beginning their visit by water deepens their appreciation for the realities faced by soldiers who once navigated these same routes, albeit under vastly different circumstances. If you're more of an independent explorer, self-guided travel is possible too. The tunnel sites are accessible by taxi, motorbike, or bus from Ho Chi Minh City. This approach allows for a flexible schedule, extra time at particular exhibits, or a quieter, personal pace of discovery. However, first-time visitors may find the input of a local guide invaluable, given the layers of historical, military, and social context that might otherwise go unnoticed. Choosing which section of Cu Chi to visit is another consideration. The two most visited sites are Ben Dinh and Ben Duoc, each with distinctive characteristics. Ben Dinh, closer to Ho Chi Minh City, caters to the majority of tourists. Its tunnels have been reinforced and slightly widened, making them more accessible, but less authentic. The site bustles with activity and often forms the highlight of organized tours. While it delivers a vivid introduction to tunnel warfare, it can feel crowded or even theatrical at peak times, with more carefully curated displays and well-swept walkways. Ben Duoc, on the other hand, lies further afield and offers a more authentic, solemn encounter. Here the tunnels remain closer to their original dimensions and rugged state. The atmosphere is quieter, more contemplative, and the visitor numbers are lower. For those seeking a deeper connection to the story of Cu Chi, Ben Duoc provides a more immersive and respectful environment in which the hardships faced by those who lived and fought underground can be thoughtfully considered. One of the highlights for many visitors is the opportunity to actually enter and crawl through a section of the tunnels. For safety and accessibility, these narrow passages have been widened, but even so, the experience can be both exhilarating and sobering. Descending into the dim, tight spaces, the sensation of the cool earth closing in on all sides is immediate and visceral. Shuffling along, bent at the waist or on hands and knees, darkness and silence press in, offering a small taste of the conditions endured by the guerrilla fighters. Emerging into the light at the tunnel's exit, breathless and dusty, visitors often report a newfound respect for the endurance and ingenuity demanded by life underground. Above ground, an array of exhibits and dioramas presents the remarkable complexity of the tunnel system. Intricate scale models show the layout of the passages, the cunning of the booby traps, and the logistical feats involved. Here, mannequins depict momentary vignettes from daily life, soldiers preparing traps, cooks working by smoke-dispersing ovens, lookouts peering through hidden vents. The exhibits lay bare the methods by which the Viet Cong extended their reach, lived unseen, and defied the overwhelming firepower of a mighty adversary. Weapon displays add another layer, inviting awe and apprehension in equal measure. Under shaded eaves or within glass cases waits an arsenal of relics. AK-47s rusted and worn, bomb casings scavenged and repurposed, and the infamous trap models, spike-filled pits, swinging doors, and tripwires, all testaments to the resourcefulness and relentless danger of guerrilla warfare. The sight of these devices, explained in detail by guides or descriptive signage, brings home the daily peril of the conflict and the relentless ingenuity required to both defend and attack. For those so inclined, there is the option, often debated among travelers, to fire a range of old wartime weapons at an on-site shooting range. Under controlled supervision, visitors pay to fire live rounds from AK-47s, M16s, or machine guns. Some see this as a way to feel the tangible power of the weapons of war and gain insight into their impact. Others, understandably, find the experience unsettling, feeling that it strays too close to transforming the site into a war-themed amusement park. Sensitivity to the solemn history of the tunnels is essential, and many choose to honor the site simply through learning, reflection, and remembrance rather than by participating in the shooting experience. Guided tours serve as an invaluable bridge between the harsh physical realities of the tunnels and their broader cultural and historical context. Local guides, some of whom have poignant family connections to the war, recount not only tactical minutiae, but also the survival strategies of those who created and survived in the tunnels. Many share stories of rationed food cooked underground, aromatic smoke dispersed slowly to evade aerial detection, and the struggle to maintain communication across branching networks. The storytelling is often punctuated with humor, humility, and the echo of loss, a living testament to the resilience passed down through generations. Yet visiting the Cu Chi tunnels means grappling with difficult questions and ethical considerations. It's vital to remember that this is not simply an attraction for entertainment or an exotic adventure. For many Vietnamese, the tunnels are a cemetery, a monument to suffering, survival, and the immense toll of conflict. Context and empathy must guide each step, reframing the visit as an act of remembrance and respect, not voyeurism. It is a place to marvel at ingenuity, but also to mourn the tragic necessity of its creation. In Vietnamese consciousness, Cu Chi stands as a symbol of resilience, resistance, and national pride. It represents not just a defensive tactic, but an unwavering spirit, the ability to persist creatively under impossible circumstances. The story is not one of triumph alone, but of profound sacrifice. Embedded deep within these tunnels is the narrative of an entire generation, echoing not only through the preserved passageways but in the lives and stories of all who remember. For visitors, reactions reflect the emotional complexity of the site. Many are shocked by the scale and sophistication of the tunnel network, its narrow, oppressive dimensions, and the ingenuity required to construct and inhabit it undetected for years. The sheer volume of traps and countermeasures, the persistence required to dig, expand, and camouflage the tunnels under relentless bombardment, the tenacity of maintaining underground life, all of this inspires a mix of admiration, sorrow, and humility. To walk the ground, to stoop into the earth, is to encounter the conflict not as a distant report from textbooks, but as a lived reality that demanded extraordinary endurance. Accessibility remains a practical concern for visitors. While wider and reinforced sections are available, many passages retain their original proportions: tight, dark, and at times stifling. Those who experience claustrophobia, joint issues, or limited mobility should consider this carefully, as some parts may not be suitable for everyone. For those unable or unwilling to crawl underground, the above-ground exhibits still provide a meaningful, engaging overview of life in the tunnels, ensuring the lessons of Cu Chi remain accessible to all. Choosing when to visit can influence the experience considerably. The early morning brings cooler temperatures and smaller crowds, allowing for a quieter, less hurried exploration. Those who come later in the day may find midday heat oppressive and the sights increasingly busy. A morning start not only makes for comfortable crawling and walking, but also leaves time for reflection in the afternoon, perhaps along the peaceful, leafy banks of the river or over a shared meal nearby. Comfortable clothing is essential, ideally in light, breathable fabrics. Closed-toe shoes will protect your feet from uneven paths and dust, and it's wise to select clothes you don't mind getting a bit dirty. After all, crawling through tunnels is no clean affair. A hat, sunscreen, and water bottle are smart additions, especially for the outdoor areas and warmer parts of the day. Food options range from simple snacks at on-site stalls to small local restaurants. Some tours include a lunch stop at riverside eateries or open-air cafes, offering a taste of local cuisine, spring rolls, noodles, or fresh fruit amid lush, tropical surroundings. Dining here, conversation often turns to the morning's experiences, allowing moments to process and discuss the profound realities observed. For those wishing to take home a memory, a modest array of souvenirs is available. These include books detailing the history and stories of the tunnels, replica army gear, models, and documentaries. Care should be taken to approach these purchases as tokens of remembrance and not as trivial memorabilia. Each item, after all, ties back to real histories and hard-won lessons. Above all, Cu Chi's greatest value lies in its educational depth. For students, historians, and reflective travelers, the site is a living classroom, one where theory becomes tactile, where the magnitude of survival is witnessed, and where the meaning of war is narrated not through dates and numbers, but through the ingenuity and endurance of ordinary people. It is a powerful destination for those who seek to understand the courage, suffering, and determination behind the headlines of history. Visiting Cu Chi is an invitation to step into the shoes, and into the earth itself, of those who endured one of the most challenging chapters of Vietnam's past. It cautions against the folly of war, celebrates the adaptability of the human spirit, and urges all who visit to remember not just the struggle against an external enemy, but the internal triumph of will, creativity, and hope. It is here, beneath the tangled jungle canopy and within the silent underground labyrinth, that the reality of conflict, its costs, its hardships, its acts of heroism and desperation becomes palpable. Here, reflection is not optional, but essential. Grounded in respect, the visit becomes more than a tour. It becomes a meditation on survival, sacrifice, and the indomitable power of the human will, a lesson etched forever into the tunnels and into the hearts of all who enter them.